Good morning, UPBOptionMillionaires.com. It's Monday. It's July 10th, 2017. A couple hours before the opening bell here. S&P 500 futures are higher. NASDAQ futures higher. Small caps look to open higher. And if you look at the pullback that we've seen, really since hitting record highs, just looks more of the same old bull flag with a sharp resolution to the upside on the way. And you wouldn't think that was the case when NASDAQ hit its record highs just a couple weeks ago. Do you remember we had the impeachment, which is the support level here we've bounced off of. We had the impeachment and then the ultimate move to record highs. And then on a Friday, just about the middle of the session, we've started pulling back significantly for absolutely no reason. And really, tech has been on its heels ever since, up until late last week. Looked like we were going to break down, and then the old rope-a-dope comes and the jobs report launches the NASDAQ higher. So if you look, this gain, this move to the upside is going to continue here this morning. We're up 1/3%. We're going to hold those gains. It remains to be seen, but looks pretty good if you look off support here at least into the middle part of this week. What's not moving up today? Crude oil continues its move to the downside, and you can see it's really breaking down here with support at about 40 here for crude oil. You can see that goes back to August of last year, and you see each time we've come across this trend line, we've popped up to it. Actually over 50. Can you believe that? Just a couple months ago, and now we're heading towards 40, which is not going to help what? The energy ETF XLE. I'll get into that in a minute, but I just want to pull up the VIX as well, which is pointing to possible more upside for the market here. Each of the moves to the upside for the VIX historically has lasted at least a couple days, couple weeks. Well, now we're getting it where it's just intraday. We were actually up 50% on the VIX a couple weeks ago in one trading session into just after the lunchtime hour, and then ultimately just closed up 15%, which is a pretty stunning reversal. And that's kind of what we're seeing. These moves to the downside for the market. The buy the dip remains strong here. And if you look, the corporate buybacks, there was something posted on StockTwits. Apple has bought back $120 billion worth of its own stock in the last 21 months. I mean, that's a stunning figure. So if you look at the market, every time the market dips and just suddenly rises from the ashes, well, it's the corporate buyback machine, because they don't care about what's going on with Donald Trump tweeting or war or nuclear, the risks of nuclear war. All they care about is buying back their stock. They don't care what's going on. So let's look at energy, which is the one thing that's declining here. And look at the XLE, the energy ETF, which was actually down at the lows in February of 2016 at 49 and change. So this is the support level here. We're starting to roll over. If you wanted to trade something for downside, if you just itching to say something's going to pull back, I think energy is going to continue to trade to the downside into the summer, and that this is the logical location, at least support. If it breaks that, look at this, we get back to the 2009 lows, get us down to about $30 for XLE. Let's look at the S&P 500 ETF, the SPDR, and really just look over a monthly basis here since the lows in February of 2016. Look at this. One red candle. So if you're trading for downside for the S&P 500 ETF, you did get a month. You got a month out of the last 22 months. So congratulations. The NASDAQ, however, after it hit its high, yeah, there's actually two red candles there. So you're doing a little better. But if it was your trade, you're short of 2017. Look at the move we've had since the start of 2017 for tech. Enormous move to the upside here. And just on a monthly basis, this looks like some sort of a bull flag, which is going to head us up to new higher prices for the triple Qs. Shorter term, though, of course, the old rope-a-dope. Hey, it's got to keep some modicum of possible downside. We've got to at least have the look of downside. Otherwise, we're just going to head to, infinity. So you look at support hit here. We started to bounce. A nice little candle here. This almost looks like two eyes and a nose and a smiley face. So we'll see if we get up to that 140 level. That 137 level, which we broke under briefly a couple times last week, I think that was key. That 137 level acting as support. And if we can get back over 140 and break this possible trend line here, if you draw a trend line from the highs back to this 140, 150 line, break over that, new all-time record print for QQQ is coming. Small caps continue to consolidate after the election. Look at that move up. We've had the election. Remember, we were down 9 straight days for the NASDAQ, S&P 500. Well, IWM was the first, the small caps, on that Friday. See this Friday? And this day was when Hillary Clinton, it was a Monday, actually was Sunday when she was cleared of the investigation. Everything was up over 1%. And then we had the election night. Remember, we were down. S&P 500 futures were halted because they were limit down. And then we did all right from that point on. And we've been consolidating here for the small caps But NASDAQ hasn't been consolidating. It's been continuing to grind to the upside. Remember that late Friday pullback for no reason. That would be the only thing that really would concern me here for this market, is when we get a pullback for absolutely no reason. Right now we're reversing that. Look at Facebook, continuing its ascent to the upside. And if you draw a chart and you bring up the support that it's hit really since its lows, remember this was supposed to go to $15 a share, unlike the Barron's, and has done the exact opposite. Look at the move we've had recently, busting away from support here, moving up, and it's been consolidating. And if you look, let me just see if I can pull up a 10-year, and you can see the monthly reversals. Look at this, the rejections here of downside and the rejection of upside. So it's consolidating here. We don't know which way it's going to head. Is it going to come back down to support, which it's done pretty much every year for the last 4 years, or is it going to vault to new all-time record highs? This is something I think is going to be tradable here, maybe a strangler or a straddle, but until that decision is made, it might continue with another candle here of 155, 145 for Facebook. A couple other charts to look at. Apple. I brought this up at the start of the year. It's had a couple, if you look back to May 2013 when it hit its low, nice W bottom. I'll take these drawings out. And it's had just these multi-year legs to the upside and then a pullback. And multi-year move to the upside and then a pullback. And then another multi-year move to the upside. And then are we going to get a pullback? And I think that's the case we have here, is you bring a trend line across here. That's where the reversal started to the downside recently after hitting 155.99, I believe was the all-time high now for Apple. So you draw a trend line across. I mean, is there a case that you can make for it heading back to $115 a share? It doesn't seem like it. Again, as I brought up, $121 billion, something like that, has been buying back of itself. I mean, it looks in the mirror every day, Apple, the share buyback, it just loves itself. So how can you fight that? But again, as much as you want to think that it could head to $200 or as Carl Icahn said a couple years ago, $240 a share, which it may, ultimately it is going to have pullbacks. And I think even if it gets back up to that 156 level, which it may, that I think ultimately it's going to head back down to the 120s before it resumes its ascent in another multi-year leg to the upside, assuming there are no black swan events. A stock I'm watching this week and beyond, continue to watch it this year, great earnings report, sold off on it, but playing out with a similar pattern. If you look back in 2015, hit record highs for EBIX, pulled back to support, and then launched up to new all-time record highs just recently on an earnings report at the start of this year, and has been pulling back. A similar pattern here. Here we are at trendline support. Possible move back into the 60s. The impetus could be an analyst meeting with the CEO today and later this week. They've made an acquisition with an Indian payment company, which I think is going to be really good for earnings going forward. And this is a company that's growing, and the stock price is going to start reflecting that. A couple other charts to look at. Caterpillar. I know I really don't like this stock because if you look even at John Deere, revenues has been in decline. But yeah, buying back itself, issuing dividends, and look at it breaking out to a record high after hitting resistance on a couple of occasions, finally breaking out. Caterpillar, and then of course the financials, which last week announced they're buying back themselves almost $100 billion announced from financial institutions like JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Citigroup, and you can see the breakout JP Morgan Chase to new all-time record highs. Possible triple digits coming over the short to medium term. Pretty wild to think about that. Goldman Sachs, on the other hand, had a nice bull flag that it did not break out of to the upside. Actually came down. So if you look, the move here at Goldman Sachs will be back up to 240 at that point. We're going to pull back down to hit long-term trendline support at 200. But again, the decreased regulation, I think, is helping to boost these financials as well. And then the ultimate share buybacks, loving themselves. So financials, if you look, one chart I brought up earlier last week, XLF, the financial ETF, let's pull the drawings out, and you look from a long-term perspective here. We came up to the financial crisis highs. Is this a possible double top? If not, we break through it. Gosh, I mean, the financials is just going to roar to the upside into this summer. So, all right, UPBOptionMillionaires.com. Everyone have a great start to the week. I'll see you in the chat room.